Welcome back to the Red Recapped. Today, I'm going to explain a romance, drama movie, 9.5 weeks. Spoilers ahead. Watch out, and take care. Elizabeth works for an art gallery in Soho, a crowded neighborhood in the heart of New York City. She also lives in an apartment along with her roommate, colleague and best friend, Molly. One day at a Chinese grocery store, she notices a mysterious man with a great charm, John. John stares at her with a bright smile. Something in his eyes moves Elizabeth deep inside and makes her shy. In the blinking of an eye, the man is gone. When they step out of the grocery store, Elizabeth, eyes looking for the man, ends up spotting him just across the street, where he works for Wall Street as an arbitrage. The following day, at a street fair, Elizabeth tries to buy a beautiful scarf, but she gives up because it's too expensive. Unbeknownst to that, John was keeping an eye on him from a distance. He approaches her. The attraction between them is quite clear. As a result, they go on a date at a cool and cozy restaurant. There, John briefs her about the history of the restaurant while feeding her a glass of red wine. On the street, she's surprised and overjoyed to see the expensive scarf from the street fair presented to her by John. Elizabeth has been increasingly subjected to John's behavioral peculiarities. Then John takes her to a cottage by the river, owned by a friend of John's. Seeing him providing bed, Elizabeth sarcastically tells him that they are not going to sleep together so soon. John then plays a mesmeric song by Billie Holiday on the phonograph. The following day at work, Elizabeth received a bouquet of roses sent by John. From that day on, they spent the most romantic, passionate time together. One day, he rides her on a merry-go-round alone, and pranks her by stopping the machine and walking away for a cup of coffee with the operator. But since Elizabeth has fallen in love with his dissimilarity to the other men, she is over the moon when she's with him. One night, Elizabeth takes him to her apartment. There, she reveals to him the truth that she got divorced after a 3-year marriage. John believes her past is her privacy. Instead, he asks her to take off her clothes and Elizabeth seductively does so. His fingers gently caressed her blonde hair. John then blindfolds her and smoothly lies her down on the table. He slowly undoes her buttons and Elizabeth experiences the most beautiful time in her sexual life. John then moves an ice over her body that melts with her burning skin. The following day, John gives her an expensive gold watch, and asks her to use it to think about him touching her every day at noon. She takes this instruction even further by masturbating at her workplace at the determined time. When she returns home, she notices John has barged into her room and is waiting for her to arrive. John feels hungry. So he goes to the kitchen to provide something to eat. But when Elizabeth is about to step into it, he stops her and asks her to close her eyes. John then starts putting food in her mouth, from delicious ones like jelly, strawberry and cranberry to milk, chili pepper or even cough syrup. After emptying honey all over her legs, they have the most romantic sex. The next day at work, Molly tells her that she slept with her ex-husband. It makes her think that she has been blind to normal life. Because of that, she wants the two of them to spend more time socializing with friends. But he makes it clear that she's the only one he wishes to be with, not anybody else. John also adds that she's allowed to see her friends in the daytime, but he wants the nighttime to be theirs. He then gets a phone call and has to leave, but asks Elizabeth to stay. Elizabeth gets bored. As a result, she starts checking his closet until she discovers a photo of him with another woman. John calls her and asks her if she went through his things, proclaiming that he will punish her when he realizes the truth. On returning home, John criticizes her that she's a bad girl, asking her to face the wall, and raise her skirt in order to get spanked. It hurts her trying to leave, but finds the door locked, causing her to angrily attack and beat John. John overpowers her and forces her to lie down and tears her underwear apart. It's more like a rape than previous romantic affairs. So there's no more laughter in Elizabeth's eyes, but lust is still. John starts to control all aspects of Elizabeth's life, such as choosing what she should put on and picking out what she will eat, feeding her and brushing her hair. Elizabeth gets increasingly dependent on John for mental and emotional balance as she loses her sense of self. Without considering that, they still have the most passionate sex which is even brought to the public. They are also extremely passionate and every day comes with some new experiences. Because of their reckless works, Elizabeth gets a cold but is nicely looked after by John. During a conversation with Molly, Elizabeth concludes that she needs to know much more about John, who she is in love with. As a result, she goes to see him at his workplace. But when they meet, John shows no interest in her action. Someday at an overcrowded bar, Elizabeth wishes only she was a man while touching John's manhood. Hearing this, John decides to make Elizabeth's wish come true, so he asks her to draw a mustache till they meet in a fancy restaurant. There, John tells her that the only thing that keeps him going through the boring routine is her, and also complimenting her heart-shaped butt. On leaving the restaurant, some thugs insult the duo while driving, which is angrily replied to by Elizabeth, causing the thugs to chase after them and they start to run. They keep up running until they reach a dead end, confronting the attacker. Elizabeth surprisingly knocks him down. While John is fighting, Elizabeth picks the knife from the attacker and stabs him in the buttocks, making both of them flee the scene. Elizabeth feels strength along with John, and adores her new herself. As a result, she exclaims several times that she loves John and they have the most crazy and passionate sex ever at the crime site. Without considering social norms and even the law, they live in their duo world. One day in the mall, seeing Elizabeth's desire to have a necklace, John offers her to steal it. And she does so. Later, in a bed store, John gently starts to take Elizabeth's heels off and openly tells her to widely open your legs for daddy. The said clearly overheard by the store owner and shocked him. John's demeanor gets even more narcissistic when he whips Elizabeth in the legs as a sign of BDSM in an equestrian accessories store. On arriving home, Elizabeth starts a seducing strip dance, when John is watching her excited. Elizabeth then travels to the countryside to visit an artist named Farnsworth. She manages to secure an exhibition for their gallery in 3 weeks. Back inside John's apartment, he denotes that he is a man who can't easily get sexually pleased unless she crawls to the floor and takes the money from him. Controlled and in love with John, Elizabeth does so. But she then refuses as it's humiliating. But John tries to dominate her by whipping her right next to him, while Elizabeth clears that it's just a game and she breaks down crying. John claims that she loves this game, but Elizabeth, in response, tells him that she hates it and throws the money in his face. The next day at workplace, Elizabeth's husband, Bruce, shows up. Seeing John's demeanor, Bruce appears to be a simple, nice man to Elizabeth. She gets even more frustrated when she remembers that Bruce is now going on a date with Molly. After arguing with John, Elizabeth feels extremely depressed until she gets a call from John, asking to meet him at a hotel. Upon reaching there, she gets another call from him and is asked to wear new clothes from the drawer. As soon as he enters, Elizabeth gets happy but belittled and scolded by John as she hasn't done what he asked. John then blindfolds her and tells her, "I love you." Shortly after, a prostitute sent by John starts seductively touching her. She then removes her blindfold and goes to John to continue what she started. In a fit of rage, Elizabeth attacks both of them and walks away while followed by John. She ends up reaching an adult entertainment venue, next to another man. She starts making out with him while being watched by John. John then embraces her as a symbol of being sorry. During a successful opening night, Elizabeth's gallery exhibits Farnsworth's work. Farnsworth, clearly uncomfortable at the party, sees Elizabeth as she retreats to a corner in tears. Dependent on John for her emotional stability, Elizabeth phones him. The next morning, Elizabeth packs up to leave him. John wakes up, realizing she is leaving. He attempts to bring her back by sharing some details of his family before saying, "I want you to know there's been lots of other girls, but I never felt anything like this before." But Elizabeth says it's too late and walks out. John starts counting to 50 and hopes that she returns, which will never happen. Devastated, Elizabeth fades into the twilight, and this is the end of 9.5 strange weeks. Please comment on which movie you want to be next. Thanks for watching.